Hey, what's happening?
Brother, what's up?
This is a
Hey, how you
big
doing?
party, man.
Yeah,
I
brother,
can
like,
dig it.
stop. Right on.
Hey, man, what's your name?
Good morning and welcome. Wait, what was that? Let me. Yeah. Good morning and welcome to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. A balmy morning. It's Friday, and that means forgot Calvin. Good morning to you, Calvin. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Earl. How are you?
At the balmy morning, it's got.
Kelvin, did you notice that Earl faltered when it came to his own name? He said this is the. He had to
been a
start
long
over
week.
again to get that out.
Listen, man, I'm just heartbroken, man. We were supposed to have Ron Johnson.
I can
Senator Ron Johnson.
I'll do my Ron Johnson imitation.
Do it.
I don't have one. Actually.
Hey, so Ron Johnson, I saw him. Oh, for those of you who are not aware and who may be disappointed, there were plans on having Senator Ron Johnson in the studio this morning. You know, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray.
Off to go a glay.
Oh, by the way, that's Sandy Williams, my co-host. If you
Yeah.
haven't figured it out by now. And so he was scheduled to be in the studio this morning. A lot of plans, and got a call.
He's coming in the 9th. Right?
Yes, got a call on Wednesday. He had to postpone, and he is coming in next Friday.
Yeah.
No, Friday after next, February 9th.
And the postponement though was because of this activity in the Senate, right?
Yes.
Associated with the solution to the border problem and the Ukrainian problem, which I suspect we'll talk about that.
So you couldn't wait for us to get into that.
Well, no, there was a segue. There was just like there was a bridge. I thought I'd take it.
So yes. And so for those of you who are expecting Senator Ron Johnson this morning, I saw him on television the other day, and might have been yesterday. Why does he wind up on the wrong side of things, Sandy?
How does the chicken cross the street? Why? See, we can't answer those questions.
I don't know if he's looking to be contrary, but he just seems to always be that lone voice when it comes to reasoning. He seems to be on the other side of reasoning, Sandy.
Well, maybe, this vote, this thing that is causing him not to be here today, of being in Washington to deal with
immigration,
potentially a bipartisan deal that relates to Israel, Ukraine, and the immigration situation at the border. That will be an important vote to test, I guess, the extent to which people put country over party. Whether partisanship prevails or whether the public interest prevails, because my understanding of what's going on there is that they're very close to reaching a deal, a bipartisan deal on immigration and the border.
Right.
And that deal would then be the linchpin for the Republicans then allowing Ukraine and Israel aid to move forward.
And border dollars.
And the border dollars. Well, I'm saying the border.
Right.
And so, and yet there's Donald Trump on the outside who's saying, hey, no, don't give Biden what seems like a victory. I'll take care of it when I'm a president. Well, okay, if he's president and tries to take care of it, unless he's got Republican majorities in all the houses, it will require a bipartisan deal. Okay, so Trump can't deliver on that promise at all unless the Democrats are willing to do what the Republicans now are suggesting they are willing to do, which is have a bipartisan deal. So Trump putting himself above both party and country is telling these Republicans not to do it.
Sandy, it's worse than any than you can even think of. Here's a man. He's nobody. He's an average citizen. and yet they're responding to him as if he's still the president of the United States, Sandy.
Well,
This is I don't know if this has ever happened historically in our nation, and it would be different if it was done in the dark, Sandy.
right. That's the point. This is all open and notorious. I mean, there's the notion that Reagan might have queered the hostage deal under the Jimmy Carter administration because he didn't want to give Carter that victory. He said, "Wait till I'm president, we'll take care of it." Well, that was done in the dark of night, and yet I think there is not yet solid proof that it was done, although there might be. But this is being done openly and notoriously. This is Trump standing up and telling people not to do this, and they're listening.
So Sandy, 844-967-2789, 844-967-2789. Sandy, we try not to constantly talk about Donald Trump. But how can you not? This is one of the most serious issues that our nation is facing. And Democrats have been able to basically give in to a lot of the requests of the Republicans on this border deal. And they've bent over backwards to make it happen. And it's been conservatives and Republicans who've constantly talked about this is the worst crisis in the world, the border.
Well, let's just unbundle it. Here's what's going on. The Republican senators are in a position to declare victory on the fact that they, the senators, have dug in, along with the House, to cause the president to negotiate on this and to accede to a bunch of restrictions at the border, okay? So the incumbent people in office are able to stand up and say, look what we did. But you know what? Donald Trump isn't in office. He can't claim he did it, all right? So this is all about Donald Trump. And he's standing really in the way of these senators being able to claim that they have done something that they have been chomping about, okay? And so it's remarkable. This goes beyond partisanship, okay? This is the cult of the individual. This is Donald Trump trying to make sure that Donald Trump, gets credit for everything. Do you think he'll give credit to those Republican senators and congressmen? No.
Sandy, I saw Lindsey Graham say, wait a minute, on television, wait a minute, we've got to get this done. He didn't lambaste Trump, but he said, if we get this done, if once Trump becomes president, he'll be in a better position. But he clearly was not supporting a guy out here in space determining and controlling what the decisions of our Congress and senators are looking to do. Look how horrible that looks.
Well, and queering the border deal probably queers the Israel and Ukrainian money. I mean, this is a big deal, okay? And this is Donald Trump looking at it only through his personal lens, which is proof of the fact, I think, that that's the way he examines everything. And I think the country ought to be put on notice about this. And this ought to be a way for the country to see the dangers of having somebody who is only in it for their own personal gain.
All right, let's go to CJ. Good morning to you, CJ. Your thoughts?
Good morning, Earl and Sandy, and both of you, thank you for taking my call. But yeah, let me start out on day one. Sandy, this president attacked the policies that had it down to $30,000 a month. Last month, it was $302,000 on day one.
Well, no, wait, CJ, just so we can continue taking your calls, can we talk about what Donald Trump is doing with respect to the bipartisan? The bipartisan deal is in some respects a reflection on the notion that Biden is now going to change course and they're going to do something different, a recognition of the righteousness potentially of the position of the Republicans on this. But do you agree that Donald Trump ought to be standing on the sidelines and queering a bipartisan solution to this solely because he wants to take personal credit for it when he becomes president again, if he does?
I don't like what Donald
That's what
the
we're
question.
talking. That's the question.
He
What's
is
your
not
answer?
He's not my number one choice.
No,
Okay?
No,
Yes.
that doesn't have to do with your number one choice. What is your reaction to taking politics to the point of queering a bipartisan solution to a problem for personal political reasons? What about that?
It's going to be. Can I respond? Can I actually finish my response?
No.
You can respond to that question, CJ. That's the whole notion of these calls, and the notion that you call in and just have your own agenda to talk about. Yes, there's a border problem. Okay, people have looked at it and have ascribed various faults associated with it, and Trump issued an order that was premised on COVID and the health problems associated with COVID. That couldn't be the basis for a long-term solution to the border. Okay, now let's just agree that there's a border problem. Okay, now what do we do about it today in the face of a bipartisan potential solution in Congress?
The president has not agreed there's a border problem. It's taken the Republican House to force the Biden administration to finally admit that it's a crisis.
So CJ, so even let's say what you say is true. They've accepted it. They're settling the differences. The only person trying to hold it up is Donald Trump. So don't point the finger at Joe Biden and Democrats. They've come to a decision that is in the benefit of everybody but Donald Trump. And you can't, and one of the reasons that we have the issues we have is you can't address that truth. You have to go back somewhere else.
We're going to address it that way because you know what's going to happen? There's going to be a bipartisan solution supposedly come out of the Senate, and it's not going to pass in the Congress, and Biden's going to run around the country saying, see, I tried.
Hey, CJ, thank you very much for the call. See, Sandy, we tried. We tried.
Yeah.
844-967-2789.
Well, incidentally, we can come back.
Yeah. Phone lines are open. It's Fridays with my co-host Sandy Williams. We'll return.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund, and I'm talking with Brett Yulberg, owner of Robert Hack Diamonds. Brett, I hear you pay cash for gold.
Not only gold, but silver, diamonds in any form like jewelry, teeth, coins, flatware.
Why should I sell you my gold?
Why not? Our store is the only store that recommends you shop around before you sell. This way you know you're getting the most money. But if Robert Hack Diamonds can't beat a competitor's offer on your scrap gold, we'll give you $20 just for letting us try.
Hey, what if I'm shy?
You? Well, at Robert Hack Diamonds, we sit with you at a table. We go through your items and make you an offer. You're not pressured, and we offer more on jewelry that we can resell.
Can I trade my gold for a new piece of jewelry?
Of course you can, and not only that, we can custom make a piece of jewelry using your gold and gems.
Hey, there you have it, folks. Sell your gold to my friends at Robert Hack Diamonds. Visit them on 76th and Layton in Greenfield. Robert Hack Diamonds, where they want your business.
When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. Downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you
So I'm playing this for Al.
the lights so much brighter there.
Else
You
turn the
can
music
forget
down.
all your
That's what he
troubles,
said, I think.
forget all your cares, so go
Welcome back to a Friday edition of the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. If you're just joining us and wondering where United States Senator Ron Johnson is, he had to postpone his appearance. He'll be here on February the 9th. And so, we're going to have to try to make it without him, Sandy. It's a tough slog, right?
It is. We just finished a call with CJ before the break, and we were talking about the fact that Trump, standing on the outside, is trying to throw himself and his political future, his own political interests, in the way of a bipartisan solution that would include a solution, bipartisan money and solutions to the immigration problem on the border. Something which the Republicans and Trump himself had long said need to be solved. Now the Biden administration has come around and has negotiated on this, and apparently is on the eve of a bipartisan vote in the Senate that will pass. It was just interesting that finally CJ at the end said, well, that's what'll happen. Here's the problem with this. It'll pass in the Senate, and then the House of Representatives won't pass it. Of course, the House of Representatives is a Republican majority
Right.
body. It could pass there if they were willing to solve the problem instead of just having it be a political football. And then Biden will be able to run around the country and say, see, I tried. Okay, so this is all in the hands of the Republicans. And the Republicans are apparently willing to do a bipartisan solution in the Senate. And if the House won't do it, well, whose fault is that?
Well, so let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to David from Mequon. Good morning to you, David. You say what?
Good morning, gentlemen. Really quickly, so I find it interesting. For 3.5 years, we heard from Mayorkas, from Kamala Harris. There's no problems at the border. The border's under control. Okay. Now we come to election year. Blinken, Mayorkas, was Randall. They met with the president of Mexico at the end of December. 2 weeks ago, the Secretary of Mexico came out. Mexico was requesting a pretty large sum of money. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you're aware of this, Sandy, or not, but all of a sudden, the amount of people crossing the border has dropped in half. Mexico is now rounding up within the country of Mexico, because it's not so many Mexicans actually crossing to the United States. It's people from
We know,
Venezuela,
Dave.
Nicaragua,
Dave, we know.
all
Yeah.
that stuff. Okay, so they're rounding them up. So there was a deal made secretively with Blinken and the other individuals, and all of a sudden the optics have changed because, again, it's an election year. It's one of the big concerns for voters out there.
Dave, what does that
This
have
is
to
a-
do with Donald Trump telling congressmen and senators to vote no? What does that have to do with that?
I'm not talking about.
I know,
Donald
but
Trump.
that's what
I'm
we're
talking
talking.
about.
Dave,
I'm talking about.
that's what we're talking about.
Look, Dave. I think this, at least this show, we have all agreed, and I have said every time I've been asked about it, there is a problem at the border. I think that Washington is in agreement. There is a problem at the border. I'm not sure how many times and in what dates you can find quotes from the president saying that all is well on the border. There is no problem on the border. I think Mayorkas and others have tried to defend the extent to which they have done their best to deal with the problem at the border. But I'm not aware of much in the way of sanguine talk on the part of those folks that there isn't a problem. But regardless of that, and regardless of the reasons for them coming to heel and now negotiating on this, the fact is that there has been a negotiation, is a negotiation ongoing, that is apparently on the eve of forging a bipartisan effort to solve the problems at the border. That's what we're talking about. And we're not talking about the history of the extent to which it was recognized in the past or dealt with in the past. And whether it's being done in an election year or not, people do things for their own reasons and reach their own conclusions. The only skepticism I have about the story you told about the secret deal that was forged is that it wasn't much of a secret, Dave, if you know about it.
We don't know all the details of it, Sandy. That's the problem.
Well,
Why all of a sudden is
it wasn't
Mexico-
secret. It wasn't secret if we know about it, and if it was secret, we don't know about it. But in any case, pressure was obviously brought to bear on Mexico to start doing things on the Mexican side of the border, and they are. Isn't that a good thing?
But Sandy, people want to change our conversation. Our conversation is about the fact that a man who's running for president, it has enough power to tell elected officials for the first time since 1986, I guess, or so, there's a possibility of having some legislation done. And here it is that one man can tell one side of the equation, don't vote for it, wait for me to get this and get credit. That's the issue, Dave. What is your thought on that?
My thought is this: whatever happens, I think we all agree this should not. This can has been kicked down the road for far too long, and I don't want to see kicked down the road anymore.
Hey, Dave, that's what they're doing right now. They're settling that. They're trying to settle that. And there's one guy who's saying, don't do it. Why is it so hard for people to address that?
Well, let me just say that the reason it's been kicked down the road all along is there have always been people whose political interest it was not to solve the problem. It was the people who were employing illegal aliens. It was who knows all the different private interests that decided that it wasn't worth solving the problem. And then there was also just the political dynamite associated with having the problem to talk about. Once you solve it, it goes away as a political issue, just the way Roe v. Wade changed its color in terms of its political implications when it was finally overturned.
Sandy, I've got the answer.
What's that?
Petula Clark and Let's Go Downtown. Got to take a short hiatus.
Okay, here we go.
You're gonna be all right And you may find somebody kind to help and understand you. Someone who is just like you and needs a gentle hand to guide them along. So maybe I'll see you there. We can forget all our troubles, forget all our cares. So go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Don't wait a minute more. Downtown. Everything's waiting for you. Downtown. Downtown.
More news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
This report sponsored by Current Electric, home of the superhero. Current Electric, a pioneer in solar energy for residential and commercial in the state. Go to callcurrent.com.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. The Wisconsin legislature is sending a bill to Governor Evers to force wildlife managers to set a cap on the state's wolf population. The idea is popular with hunters and farmers. The Department of Natural Resources adopted a wolf management plan last fall without a hard cap. The FBI says more teenage boys are victims of extortion on social media. Special Agent Curtis Cox says scam artists will pretend to be an attractive girl, ask for nude photos, then threaten to post them online if they don't pay.
Fear of being exposed that way causes these kids to panic. Sometimes they attempt to make the payments, which is a big mistake. Unfortunately, oftentimes we see this anxiety lead to self-harm or thoughts of suicide.
Cox urges parents to discuss sextortion with their kids. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. A judge has ruled that the old Northridge Mall is now owned by the city of Milwaukee and can be demolished. The tax foreclosure lawsuit involving the abandoned mall in Milwaukee was ruled on by a judge yesterday. The long-running dispute over the once bustling mall is almost finished thanks to the verdict. The former owner has 45 days to appeal. The mayor of Milwaukee says there's currently no grand plan for the property. This weekend marks the final opportunity to experience the Waukesha Walk of Lights. It's also the final weekend of the Waukesha Jamboree festivities. The lights, shining since December, illuminates the Riverfront Plaza, Gazebo, Love Bridge, Bryant Bridge, and Friedman Alley. The Jamboree this weekend features the Frosty 5K, a penguin egg hunt, plus events at the Waukesha County Airport. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
This is Chuck Smith, founder of Current Electric. I want to thank you, Southeast Wisconsin, for making us #1 electrical service company in our area. From residential and commercial to all things solar. Do you know the #1 reason people call Current Electric? It is trust. We answer the call. They trust our heroes in their home and businesses. With 8,500 five-star reviews and growing, I'm so very proud of our team of heroes. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. Home of the superheroes.
The Bucks host Cleveland. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks host the Cavaliers. They beat them Wednesday 126-116. Last week, Cavaliers beat the Bucks by 40 points in a blowout. What was the difference this week? Damian Lillard.
I just thought we were sharper to start the game. And defensively, we didn't just allow guys to run around free and be comfortable getting to spots and get comfortable shots. I thought we were present. We were physical. Our coverages, we were much sharper than we had been in the last game.
Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo both nominated to represent the team as starters in next month's NBA All-Star game. College hoops, Wisconsin against Michigan State tonight. Number 14th ranked Marquette hosts Seton Hall tomorrow at noon. College football, the Wisconsin Badgers have a new safeties coach. Alex Grinch will take over for Colin Hitchler, who left for Alabama. Grinch was the defensive coordinator for the USC Trojans. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
We have more fog out there this morning, and it's going to stay that way for a good chunk of the day. It's going to be cloudy, scattered rain showers. Visibility will improve a little bit by later this afternoon with a high of 39. Tonight, more patchy fog, a little drizzle, 35 tomorrow. Mostly cloudy with a high of 38. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
I was proud to be a soldier.
I told the truth and got kicked out.
And so I thought to myself, I'm taking this rule down.
If you're an LGBTQ plus veteran, your memories are important too. Share your story with the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, where firsthand accounts from U.S. military veterans are preserved and made accessible for researchers and future generations. Visit loc.gov/vets to submit your stories, photographs, and documents today.
Your home for the Devil's Advocates. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6.
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number if you're just joining us. It's Friday. It's Fridays with my co-host, Sandy Williams. And if you're just joining us and expecting to hear Senator Ron Johnson, he's rescheduled and he will be on and in the studio in 2 weeks on the 9th. But anyway, we began the show talking about the fact that Democrats and Republicans in the Senate have basically came to a bipartisan decision on immigration. And Donald Trump is saying, whoa, wait a minute. Don't do that because I want to get the credit.
Yeah, don't give Joe Biden anything he can campaign on as a victory. Of course, all the Republicans who forced Joe Biden into this, that's what they'll claim. can claim victory themselves, but Donald Trump isn't part of that strategy. And so Donald Trump feels like he's left out. So Donald Trump doesn't want it to happen. But of course, not letting it happen puts at risk the Ukraine aid, the Israeli aid, and the rest of that foreign aid package that was tied into the uh, the immigration issues by the Republican caucus.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to Mark from the SAC. Good morning to you, Mark. Thank you very much for the call. You say what?
Yeah, good morning, guys, and thanks for redirecting the conversation to what the topic actually is. That Donald Trump is actually interfering with the processes of the United States in this country. That the former president should not have this type of bully pulpit or trying to do it. The nonsense that we hear that Biden does, the Democrats have been saying, "Oh, it's not a problem until right now." Well, I've never heard that from any Democrat's mouth that currently that it's not a problem. This is a problem that's been building up for decades. That part of the problem is we destabilized governments in Central America back under Ronald Reagan, and and those governments are still destabilized. And the fact that these people are desperate to come someplace, and they come to the place where the shining light, the lady holds up her shining lamp, guiding them to our country, is what our popular mythos has been. And because these people are not, white Protestant Europeans, that I think a lot of people are upset about that. I mean, that, forgetting the fact that we also excluded, all kinds of people in the past, for the Eastern Europeans and Catholic Europeans were kind of considered undesirable, and Jewish Europeans were considered undesirable, prior to World War II. I mean, that this is a long-standing problem, and Donald Trump should just shut his mouth. I mean, that if Joe Biden had the powers that Donald Trump is currently saying the president actually has, that Donald Trump would have been quietly strangled someplace, and he wouldn't be hearing his voice anymore. I mean, I've read history.
Mark, go ahead.
If you read history, I mean, that's what happens. That when you have a republic that has a quasi emperor in place, and he more or less was able to order assassinations of the people that were going up against him. I mean, Donald Trump is in this for Donald Trump. He doesn't care about the United States. He cares about Donald Trump. His sons care about themselves. I mean, the emoluments that Donald Trump took, that are this problem. If everything was right, I mean, the images of this razor wire, concertina wire on the border just raises to me that what about the borders we had with East Germany, during the Reagan administration? We were condemning those kind of borders back then. I mean, these people, how desperate can you imagine how desperate people have to be to try to cross when they see, razor wire strung across there, and they're still so desperate to come here that they're daring that rather than us. If we actually had, numerous border stations to process these people coming in here to see if they're eligible to come in here or not, how much further ahead we would be than that. But we did not see that happen during the Trump administration, and that the only people that are saying open borders are some of the Republicans and some of the conservatives say, they're not, the Biden administration did not put out big old signs that were open borders, come to America. No, they haven't been saying that. The only people saying that are some of these Republicans, and that we have to say that Donald Trump's mouth should just be shut, and that these people that are putting their loyalty behind Donald Trump rather than the current president are basically in violation of their oath to the Constitution.
Well, let me,
Mark, thank you very much for the call.
Let me just
Go ahead,
say,
sir.
as a staunch ACLU type person, that I don't think anyone's mouth should be shut. I think what should happen is that everyone should start listening to what Donald Trump is saying and thinking about what he's saying and thinking about the import and purport of what he's saying. And I think that alone would cause people to turn their back on him if they really think about what this process is and what this current situation exposes so very clearly about Donald Trump. So, I'm against quiet strangulations or also closing people's mouths, and think, however, that if people really listened to what's going on and watched it and thought about it, they would quickly turn their back on him.
Let's go to Gene from Eau Claire. Good morning to you, Gene. Thank you very much for the call. You say what?
Hi, thank you for taking my call this morning. Very interesting topic. We have to remember, too, that people who are letting them get away with this in our highest offices, that are accepting this type of behavior, are the problem. Because if they would have said no, we've been trying to do this for many years, which they have, and I never heard of no secret deal. I heard it spoken from administrative type people that they were trying to work from the other side instead of just our side overwhelming, the banks and the borders and stuff like that. This has been going on, working on that for a long time. So that's not secret. But the people that are going along with us, the people that are letting, and I'm sorry to use his name, but he lost. He fought, he didn't lose. And still taking orders from this man scares me more than the man. That these people are not working for the betterment of our country. And those people also have the opportunity to work together. Nobody, when I've watched for years live, I've never seen the chaos that I've seen. And you know what? Before, in the past, they'd argue, they'd have debates. They couldn't leave the room. They had to listen to the debates. They had to listen to all of the add-ons to bills or takeaways from bills. But they discussed it. We could see what's going on. Now all we see is chaos and a man who lost the election, a man who has been proven to assault women, a man who just don't care about the United States, in my biased opinion. I'll tell you something. This is a pretty scary thing, and people need to open their eyes. And thank you so much for taking my call, because this man the people that are there are elected to do a job. They need to do their job. They do not be taking orders from a guy with 91 counts held against him. This is scary stuff, guys. Thank you very much.
Hey,
You have a good
Gene,
day.
well said. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Tom from LA. Good morning to you, Tom. Your thoughts?
Well, good morning, Earl. First off, we the people ultimately are the government, and we must not forget that. Just want to say sorry that Russian Ron did not make it this morning. He must have had an appointment in Russia, like he did on the 4th of July, along with the other treasonous.
No, Tom. He'll
people
be
in my
here.
opinion.
He'll be here on the 9th.
Well, you better check with Putin first before you can do that, but he might be. The problem is the Republicans, they keep running out of issues. That's what's going on here. I remember, 6 months ago, we were talking about gasoline. We were talking about
inflation,
Afghanistan, and inflation, and how it's all coming, and blah, blah, blah. Dark Brandon, President Joe Biden, is beating them for someone that's so feeble and everything like that, as they say. He's sure beating them in every which way possible. And, the difference between Democrats and Republicans, and Sandy, you can agree with me or disagree with me on this, but I feel that the Democrats truly do govern for all of we the people. And the Republicans truly do govern just for their base. They don't govern from we the people. They're saying things like divide and conquer. They're doing things in Wisconsin like not taking the Medicaid dollars, so you don't have these small rural hospitals closing. They don't take the train money. They don't take the, Joe Biden's doing infrastructure. He's building things. I mean, he's doing a lot, and Donald Trump is just a chaos candidate. And
Well, I think we
lost
faded
Tom.
out there, but I certainly agree that if you look at the party's recent behaviors, the Republicans have stood for highlighting issues that don't help Tom, Dick, and Mary. Okay, and they highlight issues that inflame emotions but don't create solutions. And I do think that the Democratic Party has been the party that has, for instance, focused on what it turned into Obamacare, which became an important element in forging the right of Americans to access to health care. It has flaws and needs further solution. But the reason we aren't solving these problems is we're being asked to focus on all of this political falderall and the kind of chaos that Donald Trump likes to create every day that causes the news to cover everything but what's important to Tom, Dick, and Mary. And I think that the Republican Party has rather cynically chosen to take on only issues that basically divert attention from all of the benefits problems, the budget problems, the things that are really causing middle America to experience difficulty. And they're, however, harnessing the frustration of that middle America to some extent, Donald Trump is, to cause them to act against their interests. And so I'm hoping that people like that who were operating emotionally will now be watching Donald Trump in this particular moment and realize what it is that candidate is.
Good morning to you, Susan from Kenosha. You're up next.
Well, I totally agree with everything that Sandy has said. This immigration has been a problem for decades upon decades. My daughter went to Marquette and was a political science major and spent a year through an exchange at Lawrence College. She worked down there with the senators in the Senate, and when she came back to Milwaukee, she worked for Feingold, and one of the things that she worked on was immigration. And she was telling me, and that is the early 2000s, and she was telling me how terrible the system was. So this system has been broken. And for Donald Trump to use this as a political football, I think is just terrible. I think we have to concentrate on these people, trying to get them someplace where they're safe. I think that using razor wire and having two little children drowned with their mother, that's horrid. That he should be, Abbott should be ashamed of himself. And I think that we need to all get together and decide what is right for this country and what is right for these poor people trying to enter this country, because realistically, we are all immigrants unless we are indigenous.
Hey, Susan, well said. Bravissimo.
Yeah. Actually, the extent to which we're immigrants is highlighted by, you get Ancestry or 23andMe, these various DNA services, and they show you the evolution and migration of your ancestors. And it turns out that everybody who doesn't live in Africa are migrants, okay? Because everyone migrated into the steppes, into Eastern Europe, into the Asia, human beings have been migrating since the beginning. And so that migrants are, that's what we're talking about.
All right. 844-967-2789. Sandy Williams is here. It's Friday. I'm always happy to have him. You can join us. Don't touch that dial.
WAUK.
This is Chuck Smith, founder of Current Electric. I want to thank you, Southeast Wisconsin, for making us #1 electrical service company in our area. From residential and commercial to all things solar. Do you know the #1 reason people call Current Electric? It is trust. We answer the call. They trust our heroes in their home and businesses. With 8,500 five-star reviews and growing, I'm so very proud of our team of heroes. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. Home of the superheroes.
Thrivent is growing in southeastern Wisconsin and seeking financial advisors. If a career with independence, impact, and purpose is important to you, you should explore the Thrivent Financial Advisor opportunity. Build your own business. Use your values, drive, and skills to help others. You'll get unsurpassed support from Thrivent, a Fortune 500 company. To learn more, send your contact information to wicareers@thrivent.com.
poor boy. In God, I know I won.
You ever been to the House of the Rising Sun?
I have. There is such a place.
It hasn't ruined you, huh?
No.
Just ruined many a young boys.
Oh,
what about Calvin? Calvin, you been to? No. Okay. Maybe Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show.
I see it's sort of a metaphor, isn't it?
As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. You can text us at that same number. Listen, Sandy, maybe we need to move down to Florida. They seem to have everything figured out politically there.
Yeah, they're right on top of things.
So, Florida removes sociology as core course options for public colleges. Sandy, sociology, study of development
of society and sociological issues. Wow.
Don't we need more of that?
Well, I guess maybe that's deemed to be, what is that, woke? Is that a woke subject? Apparently. Maybe we're beginning to zero in on what woke means. Well, obviously, politically, it's being replaced by factual history course, right?
Yes.
So no longer can you graduate, and this is a course that doesn't count towards your graduation credit requirements, and it's replaced, however, by a factual history course, which must mean that it'll be somehow sanitized.
Who determines what that is?
What the factual history course is? I don't know. That sounds like a timeline. You could study just a timeline of things, dates when they happened and what happened. That's
Sandy,
factual history.
Where are we at?
It's a sorry thing. The Orwell, this author, wrote a book
1984,
called
right.
1984.
Yeah.
And it was, it came out in the 50s, and it was a prediction of the horror of the future in which there would be, the main horror was book burnings. Okay. This sounds like we're moving in that direction. Political meddling in what it is that we teach ourselves and learn about. This is what Galileo was. Remember Galileo was a breakthrough in astronomy because the Catholic Church, which was in control of things at the time, had decided that the earth was flat and that anything outside of that view of things was apostatic. It was not allowed. And we overcame that. Michelangelo, Galileo, all these things, and the Renaissance opened up thought to something that would be allowed rather freely. That was the notion of the Renaissance. And the Renaissance took the place of what was called the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages was this period where thought was not allowed to run the bounds of freedom and was constrained in particular at that point by a Catholic Church, which was very limiting. Are we going back to the Dark Ages?
Well, Sandy, there used to be a time that when crazy ideas like this would be stricken before they even got to a place where, Sandy, where
Copernicus, like the earth is round. What? Wait a minute.
So, but Sandy, it is absolute. There are more and more and more of these crazy ideas that are making their way into mainstream. This is a crazy idea to say you need less study on social issues and social problems. Is crazy.
Well, it's crazy for this to be obviously a politically driven move by a state university system who are making a value judgment and trying to restrict the numbers of students who might choose to study a particular course. I mean, really? Why do people go to universities? What is the process of advanced study? But rather to open the mind, to allow it to think about. This is the way we invent things, okay? By opening the mind to all kinds of thoughts. And the more, the Dark Ages were as well a period not only of constrained thought about things like whether the earth was flat or round, or whether pictures could be three-dimensional when painted, or whether there could be an image of Christ in a painting. This was a time when invention stopped, more or less. And it's because boundaries were put on thought to such an extent that we didn't invent things. The American economy is now driven by technological advance. We have invented very important things, and those very important things are what are driving the American economy. Apple, Microsoft, the chip makers.
Let's do this. Let's go to Cindy from Appleton. Good morning to you, Cindy. You say what?
Well, we are going back into the dark ages. I mean, look at these draconian gun laws that they've made us go back into the 1800s so everybody can carry a gun on their hip, and taking rights away from women and trying to restrict voting rights. And pretty soon it's going to be rich white men who own land will be the only ones to vote again. I swear to God, that's the route we're going. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't understand why more people aren't bothered by this, because we are going literally back to the dark ages.
Cindy, well said. Thank you very much for the call. Again, Sandy, the fact that they want to take away, and let's be honest, the young people who will be taking these courses, it's their future. So people who are making these decisions now, Sandy, aren't young people.
Well, let's face it, though, the decision they're making is they're trying to put parameters on, limitations on what it is that goes into people's minds.
Right.
Okay. They're trying to put parameters around the range of thought that people will have. That's been a strong movement in education recently, particularly amongst conservatives, trying to restrict the kind of thinking that will go on. People go to Rome so they can see the fruits of the Renaissance. When the parameters were taken off of thought and when imagination was allowed to run, and the kind of invention that occurred, invention both in the arts and in the practical world, beginning at that point, were dynamic. We should realize the dangers that are fraught associated with constraining thought. Okay, thought is something that is, first of all, our brain can think what it wants to think, and it's impossible until people are
to regulate that.
That, okay? But to try and filter out what it is that can go into a brain so that the thoughts that the brain might have are constrained is backward, very, very backward.
Hang on the lines, guys. We'll come to you on the other side. 844-967-2789. Love to hear your thoughts. It's Friday. That means Fridays with my co-host, Sandy Williams, and the House of the Rising Sun.
Southeast Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
Hey, this is Aaron from the Todd Albaugh Show. On Friday, Todd continues his winter tour around Wisconsin, and we are joined by Peter Rapine of E-Bombs World. Join us noon to 2.
For the Love of Democracy Tour 2024 continues, thanks to our fine sponsor, Chad's Design Build. Crudy lands in Las Vegas for the Nevada presidential primary, a competing GOP caucus, and all the build-up to Super Bowl 58. Tune in for special events broadcast live from the Vegas Strip. From the Nevada primary, Tuesday, February 6th through Super Bowl Friday, Crudy brings you on-the-ground coverage from a swing state that helped Joe Biden win the presidency.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
CBS News Brief. The top UN court in The Hague demanded that Israel try to contain death and damage in its military offensive in Gaza. International Court of Justice President Joan Donoghue.
Israel must ensure with immediate effect that its military forces do not commit any of the aforementioned acts.
Today, some of the grounded Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets are expected to get back in the air. Alaska Airlines CEO Ben Minicucci told CNBC.
We expect within about a week, our entire 65 airplanes or close to that should be up back in full service.
Former President Trump's opposition to a bipartisan border deal could kill the agreement. Republican leaders like Senator Mitt Romney aren't happy about it.
The idea that someone running for president would say, please hurt the country so I can blame my opponent and help my politics is a shocking development.
CBS News Brief. I'm Stacy Lynn.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A bill to ban abortion in Wisconsin after 14 weeks of pregnancy has passed the state assembly. Democratic Representative Lisa Subek.
These are decisions that are deeply personal. Every pregnancy is different. And these are individual personal decisions that should be made between a patient and our physician.
10 Republicans voted against the referendum. Governor Evers says he'd veto any effort to make abortion less accessible. It's a new record for Affordable Care Act coverage in Wisconsin. More than 266,000 people are enrolled after the latest open enrollment period. The Department of Health Services says that's a 20% increase from last time. Open enrollment is over, but some people can enroll year-round. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Yesterday in court, 37-year-old Lance Marshall, accused of an attempted kidnapping in Pewaukee, was given a $5,000 cash bond and ordered to wear a GPS device. Court records show the bond was paid and he's now out of lockup. The victim says Marshall was watching her while she shopped and grabbed her outside of the store, leading to a struggle before she escaped and sought help. Marshall's attorney stated that his client will be seeking help for mental health issues. After over 2 decades of helping to feed those in need, the CEO of the Hunger Task Force is retiring. Sherry Tussler has announced her retirement after more than 26 years leading the organization. Matt King, the current associate director, will succeed her as CEO. Tussler says she plans to move back to her hometown of Racine and spend more time with her family. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Badgers take on Sparty. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Men's college basketball, the Wisconsin Badgers host the Michigan State Spartans at the Kohl Center, but the Badgers will be without their backup point guard, Kamari McGee. Suffered an injury to his ankle and right foot in the second half of their game against Indiana. McGee out of Racine St. Catherine's now listed as out indefinitely. Marquette hosts Seton Hall tomorrow at noon. NBA, the Bucks and Doc Rivers agreeing to a 4-year deal worth $40 million. Rivers taking over for Adrian Griffin, fired Tuesday. The Bucks host the Cavaliers tonight. Joe Prunty on his role as the Bucks interim head coach.
Circumstances are always different, but like I said, you just do. Time doesn't stand still. You got to keep moving forward. And so, okay, what decisions need to be made? How are we going to handle this? What do you say to the players? What do you say to the coaching staff? And so I was proud of the guys for doing that, like coming out and staying focused on what we needed to do.
That's the Bucks' Joe Prunty. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
We have more fog out there this morning, and it's going to stay that way for a good chunk of the day. It's going to be cloudy, scattered rain showers. Visibility will improve a little bit by later this afternoon with a high of 39. Tonight, more patchy fog, a little drizzle, 35 tomorrow. Mostly cloudy with a high of 38. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
Hi, I'm Emily from Weikert Realtors Lake Point in Madison. Home ownership is a big deal, and so is taking the leap into the buying or selling of any property. The Weikert team gets that, and our job is to help you navigate the sales process and provide smooth sailing. You have questions, we have answers. You have worries, we have solutions. Let us open the door to your future home. Weikert Realtors Lake Point, 608-721-8002, 2045 Atwood Avenue. Find more info at weikert-lakepoint.com.
This is your hometown radio, Refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network. Your home of the Earl Ingram Show.
everlasting summer, you can see it fading fast. So you grab a piece of something that you think is gonna last. Well, you wouldn't even know a diamond if you held it in your hand. The things you think are precious, I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the deeds? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time?
Reeling in the years, stowing away the time. Sounds like something I'd like to do.
Right. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. It's Friday. It means Fridays. My co-host, Sandy Williams. And Sandy, we were talking about the fact that they want to kind of do away with sociology.
Well, what's interesting to me is that this doing away with courses is designed to try and do away with ideas being transferred into someone's head from a book, from a professor's talking, and it's almost like the conservatives. I think you had a quote that you were reading me during the break about the rationale that was being given by these.
Yeah, let me read this.
Board of Regents. Yeah.
When asked about the change, a spokesperson for the Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz Jr. referred the Washington Post to a December tweet in which he claimed sociology had been hijacked by left-wing activists and no longer serves its intended purpose. Sociology hijacked.
Well, but the notion that courses are political entities, right? And so what my conclusion from this is that much like conservatives have decided that immigrants will all vote Democrat, so we ought to make sure that there aren't too many of them, and we will accuse the Democrats of wanting lots of them because they will turn into Democrats. And I think they've looked at the polls and have realized that highly educated people tend to vote more liberally or Democratic. So maybe their notion is there's something in this education thing that's turning people into liberals, and so we better figure that out. We better strain out of the education process all of the stuff that we think is liberal leaning, and we ought to have fact-based things, like this fact-based history course of the United States from 1877 or whatever, accounting. We could all take accounting, I suppose, and be cured of this process of being turned into liberals by lots of education.
Let's go to Tom from West Dallas. Hey, good morning to you, Tom. Thank you very much for the call. You say what?
Good morning, gentlemen. To me, they're taking a playbook from the Muslims, Taliban, hard lines there. What are they doing? They're doing everything they can to dumb down their population and only do what their imams or what have you say is what we have to do. And we're not going to teach anything else. And it's this, the evangelicals, the Republicans are all doing this as well. They are going out of their way to dumb us down. And it's got to stop. I mean, look at the Muslims back 1,000 years ago. They brought us algebra, they brought us geometry, they brought us so many great things. And now look at what a good segment of their population is now. It's a sad thing, but I'm really hoping. I read this sociology thing down in Florida that they want to get that out of the high schools and everything, that we don't need to teach that.
Yes.
And I really hope that the Democrats stand up to these people and someone start talking about what this really means, not some political talking point that has to convince these people that we're doing the right things, and they are so not. And I'm very
hey Tom, well said. So Sandy, he said these people need to be convinced that these are the wrong things that are being done.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that people are susceptible to the notion that we don't want to let our kids learn stuff that we don't want them to learn. I remember we had a caller who called in at one point and said that his son had gone to college and come back a different person, and that was disturbing. Well, we need to be open to thoughts, and we need to have our value system is what ties us into filtering through all of the thoughts that we are provided with, both thoughts that are provided to us extrinsically coming from the outside, as well as our own imagined thoughts, because most of the demons we have reside within our own imagined thoughts. And then we need to be able to filter through them using our values and decide where we want to go. But we have learned over and over again in history that trying to restrict that which people will be offered up to think about is a very damning thing to society at large, and it has horrible consequences.
Sandy, the reason that again, this divide, I was talking about it yesterday, between red and blue, Republicans, Democrats. It's so dangerous right now. It's always been Democrats and Republicans, but it's all or nothing now. It's gonna be our way. We've got more Republicans here.
Well, it's not only all or nothing, but it's what we were talking about the first segment. It's all about partisan victories and winning partisan elections. And it's not even about accomplishing substance. It's about winning elections, and that's what it's all about: power. And what is done with that power is should be related to the policies that will be implemented for the benefit of the people, but that isn't what's being discussed.
But Sandy, when you look at it from the perspective of who's going to be in control over the power, it means that they use the power to diminish the other side. And there's always going to be a pushback on that. People aren't going to sit back and continue to allow, Sandy, those kind of things that are happening right now in Florida, in Texas, and even some in Wisconsin.
Well, we hope not. I mean, we hope not. I think that, like I said, all of this is done out of fear of the unknown, fear of the invasion of the future into the past, into the present, and changing the present from the past into what's going to be. And there's been plenty of written about this by sociologists as well as as well as historians. And the fact is that you need to resist this fear of change, and people need to embrace change. Okay, they need to embrace it and figure out where the opportunities lie and not where the pitfalls are.
All right, Tom, quickly. Tom from LA.
Yeah, Earl. You know what? It's just like Sandy just said, it's just all a game. And the thing is, all they want to do, Republicans have one policy, and if anyone can tell me differently, I really would love to know. It's to give tax breaks to the billionaire class. That's it. You just heard the Wisconsin guy the other day, oh, the people need to get their money back. Yeah, you might get a $200 or $300 back. I have the worst roads in the country, but you'll get $200 or $300 back. But Widow Hendricks will get millions of dollars back. That, as I think Jack said from Merrimack, how much is enough? How much do you need? They're hoarders. They're hoarders with their money. I mean, how much is not enough? That would be the big question. And again, listen to the Republicans every time they speak. Oh, tax breaks. Oh, the people deserve to get their money back. They don't deserve good roads. They don't deserve good bridges. They don't deserve any good health care. But boy, they deserve that $200 tax break that they might get back from their taxes. Meanwhile, the billionaire class gets us fighting with each other about trans issues, about black and white issues, and that's what they want. So they can steal. So we're all fighting with each other, and then they can steal the money and they can keep getting their tax breaks for billionaires.
Hey, Tom, thank you very much for the call. Sandy, just kind of tease this before we, go into the next segment. But Democrats take aim at Medicare Advantage ads as seniors call foul. Man, I've been talking about ever since I got old enough to receive Medicare, which has been a while now. I kept constantly talking about I don't understand how it works, right? And I'm still struggling when every year at the same time it opens up where you can get a chance to choose
Well, you know,
Medicare Advantage.
Well, yeah, you can choose Medicare Advantage, or you can choose your prescription healthcare coverage thing. The two areas of complications are actually the areas where lobbyists on K Street stuck their nose in and got things accomplished in the prior decades. One of them being I think you said it was 2003.
George Bush, 2003, George Bush Jr., who said that the government could no longer handle Medicare on its own. I got an idea. We'll privatize.
Yeah, so they set up this private option, which if you ever sit down and think through all the details associated with Medicare Advantage, yeah, you pay a slightly smaller premium than the premium you would pay to the government, but the coverage you get, everything gets compromised. And the process is not beneficial, okay?
So Sandy, I'm embarrassed. I still don't know what I have.
Whether you have Advantage or...
Well, I have Medicare, and then I have the supplement, but I don't understand it. And so...
Well, the very good thing about Medicare itself is that it's simple, okay? You simply have it, and the premium you pay for it is, and there's no decisions to be made. There are decisions to be made about the supplement. If you decide to fill the hole in the donut,
I've got the supplement,
the 20%, then you can choose your supplemental insurance. But that's the same problem you would have if you had private health insurance.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that on the other side. 844-967-2789. It's Friday. That means Fridays, and my co-host Sandy Williams will return.
The Shaw, WAUK.
Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and even diamonds. That's right. Robert Hack Diamonds wants to make you an offer on your gold, silver, and diamonds. The process is very simple. No appointment needed. Just come on in, sit down in a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the staff of Robert Hack Diamonds will evaluate your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds and make you an offer on the spot. Then you can decide if you want a deal or no deal. Robert Hack Diamonds can also convert your old jewelry into something new or trade in your outdated pieces for something new and exciting. Many people inherit jewelry that might not be your taste, but you are sentimental. Why not have Robert Hack Diamonds take the golden gems and create something for you? So many options at Robert Hack Diamonds. Again, Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds. See them in Brookfield, just east of Moreland on Greenland Avenue, or 76 in Layton, right on the corner in Greenfield. RobertHackDiamonds.com.
This is the Shaw, WAUK.
Hey, Al, wake up.
Where would you be now?
All right, welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. My. Democrats take aim at Medicare Advantage ads as seniors cry foul. So seniors are now talking about how they've been taken advantage of. Uh-oh. Hey, Calvin, you got your hand on that dump button? All right, Al.
Al woke up.
Hey, Al.
How are you?
Good morning. I woke up when Creedence Clearwater was on about a half hour ago. Oh, you
So-
think I don't know that music?
So you didn't wake up with Downtown with Petula Clark? I played that especially for you.
No, I was napping on that.
So, Al, you're into rap? Is that it?
No, not quite.
No.
I'm into jazz.
Well, we can do
Came about
jazz.
before you and me, Sandy.
Muddy Waters.
Hey, okay, Al, man. Thank you very much for the call. All right. So a Democratic senator has launched a probe into Medicare Advantage advertising practices after seniors complained of being misled and left with fewer, costlier, healthier healthcare options. Senator Roy Wyden, a Democrat from Oregon and the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, has issued letters to the leaders of the 5 Medicare plan advertisers as they look to end deceptive marketing to seniors. Wyden said his probe looks into how companies use insurance agents, lead generators, and other data to target, market to, and direct seniors towards certain Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage plans, which are privatized versions of the federal Medicare, often allow seniors to get lower premiums and vision, dental health care, all bundled together. But there's a catch. There can be a hidden cost, namely high out-of-pocket payments for treatments and a limited number of doctors who accept your insurance. So, Sandy, they've known this. This was created under former President George Bush II, who thought that we should, for all the people who keep saying, let's privatize government. This is a prime example, Sandy, is it?
Yeah, this is a clear example of there is no free lunch, okay? And so, what they did was they set up a program in which they would have private insurers who would step in and be the intermediary between the government's Medicare program and the patient. And the intermediary would receive payments from the government that would reflect the kind of payments that would be made by the government to the individual. And the private insurer, which is allowed to call itself Medicare Advantage, but it's actually a private insurer, then sets the conditions for the insurance to the customer. It tends to have premiums that are at or below the premiums you would be paying for your Medicare premium. But it restricts the places you can go. Unlike Medicare, you can go anywhere with Medicare, but you can't go anywhere with Medicare Advantage. So, and it also changes the out-of-pocket cost, the copay that you might have for various services. And so you have to look at the fine print. When you look at the fine print, you scratch your head and say, why would I do this? Number one. And number two, it's proof that there's essentially no free lunch. You've put in the middle between the patient and the government, a for-profit entity who is saying that they're going to try and make it cheaper, okay? But they don't.
Well, but Sandy, the thing is, again, so many seniors have been gouged, and they can least afford this, right? And our government has sat back and watched this go on because lobbyists carry a lot of weight, right?
Well, the lobbyists are the ones who created it in the first place and gouged. Well, it ends up being inconvenienced, and it ends up being spending more than they should have otherwise, and it ends up being troublesome, okay? And gouged, the dollars, the volume of the dollars is not huge in each person's pocket, but it is huge when you total it up for the Medicare Advantage programs, and it's not a good deal.
Wilder said seniors' information is sold by these marketing companies multiple times as they look to enroll seniors in plans, regardless if they are the right fit for their healthcare needs. It's taxpayer dollars which lining these middlemen's pockets, Wyden said. So ultimately, my goal is to stop the deceitful marketing practices. protect the privacy of seniors, and make sure every senior in America gets the health care they need. That sounds about right.
It does sound about right. And to be honest with you, when I was offered Medicare Advantage by the insurance broker that I work with, I asked him about it. He said, well, you have to kind of look at it, and there's got pros and cons. And then I looked at it, and for me, the cons far overwhelmed the pros. I had to scratch my head and say, okay, why would I do this? Because, particularly people who are getting Medicare are people who will consume medical services.
Right.
It is people who are in their last 20, 30 years of life, and that's when we consume medical services. We aren't big medical users until
we're Calvin's age.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
But Sandy, the thing that bothers me the most is you're an attorney by trade. You understood the language. The average person doesn't understand the language. It's written in a manner that we can't understand it.
Right.
So we're sacrificial lambs.
It's the whole medical system. The whole medical system has been written in hieroglyphics and organized in a manner that is reflective of hieroglyphics. I mean, it is complex, and every aspect of it is, and complexity is a very fertile ground for lobbyists.
Sandy, I think the average American, be they an elderly person, be they Democrat or Republican, would agree that I don't think is right what is happening to us. So if there's somebody who finally is stepping up, be they Democrat or whomever,
right,
to address it, wouldn't you think we should all jump on board with that?
Yeah. In fact, I think people did applaud when Trump ordered that hospital pricing be made public. I think
that was a good idea.
I think everyone thought it was a good idea, and I think it received some applause. It was and it was in a short list of good ideas I think that he had, but it was a good idea, and there is much that needs to be done to simplify and to make less expensive and to make more accessible our healthcare system.
All right, we got to take a short hiatus. 844-967-2789. Text us at that same number. You're tuned into the Earl Ingram Show.
Where would you be now without love? Well, pistons keep on turning, and the wheels go round and round, and the steel rails are cold and hard, and the mountains they go down. Without love, well, won't you be right now? Without love. Where would you be now?
The state. Go to callcurrent.com.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. More private zoos in Wisconsin would be exempt from state regulations after a bill that passed the Assembly yesterday. Zoos licensed by the Department of Natural Resources face several requirements, but zoos accredited by the Zoological Association of America would not. The FBI says a growing number of teenage boys are victims of sexual extortion on social media. Special Agent Curtis Cox urges parents to talk about it with their kids.
These kids are victims. If your kid does report this to you, don't judge, don't be angry. Look at them as a victim and help them get the help and the resources that they need.
Scam artists will pretend to be an attractive girl, ask for new photos, then threaten to post them online if the boys don't pay. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. The Milwaukee Fire Department is conducting a review of 911 dispatchers and the response of its firefighters following the tragic death of a woman. The review comes after a medical examiner's report that indicates a woman froze to death when her 911 calls went unanswered. The fire department got 2 calls about the woman's medical distress near a bus stop at 76th and Congress. According to the medical examiner, the woman was left lying in the snow for an hour and a half before help arrived. A new helicopter home for Flight for Life is up and running in Racine County. The transport system is a nonprofit organization and has been operating in Burlington for about a year. They recently completed work on a new hangar at the municipal airport, which now joins bases in Waukesha and Hartford. Officials say the new Racine County hangar allows for improved response times. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
This is Chuck Smith, founder of Current Electric. I want to thank you, Southeast Wisconsin, for making us #1 electrical service company in our area. From residential and commercial to all things solar. Do you know the #1 reason people call Current Electric? It is trust. We answer the call. They trust our heroes in their home and businesses. With 8,500 five-star reviews and growing, I'm so very proud of our team of heroes. Go to callcurrent.com. That's callcurrent.com. Home of the superheroes.
Badgers take on Sparty. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Men's college basketball, the Wisconsin Badgers host the Michigan State Spartans at the Kohl Center, but the Badgers will be without their backup point guard. Kamari McGee suffered an injury to his ankle and right foot in the second half of their game against Indiana. McGee out of Racine St. Catharines now listed as out indefinitely. Marquette hosts Seton Hall tomorrow at noon. NBA, the Bucks and Doc Rivers agreeing to a 4-year deal worth $40 million. Rivers taking over for Adrian Griffin, fired Tuesday. The Bucks host the Cavaliers tonight. Joe Prunty on his role as the Bucks interim head coach.
Circumstances are always different, but like I said, you just do. Time doesn't stand still. You got to keep moving forward. And so, okay, what decisions need to be made? How are we going to handle this? What do you say to the players? What do you say to the coaching staff? And so I was proud of the guys for doing that, like coming out and staying focused on what we needed to do.
That's the Bucks' Joe Prunty. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
We have more fog out there this morning, and it's going to stay that way for a good chunk of the day. It's going to be cloudy, scattered rain showers. Visibility will improve a little bit by later this afternoon with a high of 39. Tonight, more patchy fog, a little drizzle, 35. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy with a high of 38. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 33.
Elevate your brand with Jawama Screen Printing, your go-to local source for top-notch screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products. Whether it's spirit business or any kind of wear, Jawama has you covered with expert craftsmanship and quality customization. Visit WaukeshaScreenPrinting.com for a 15% discount and free shipping on every purchase. No order too large or small. Support your local business and call or visit Jawama Screen Printing, proud sponsor of the High School Game of the Week. Elevate your brand today.
Waukesha, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmer.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. I think you'll understand when I say that something. I wanna hold your hand.
So
The Ed Sullivan Show.
That you just took the words out of my mouth. When I first saw the Beatles, that was the song.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if this had been the only song they came out with, I wouldn't have liked them. You know, they evolved a long way from "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
You know, yeah, but there was something about it. It was catchy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'll always remember it as a young kid watching Ed Sullivan and the Beatles. First time. All right, 844-967-2789 is the number. It's Friday. That means Fridays with my co-host, Sandy Williams. And so, Sandy, I want to, you know, a couple other things I wanted to talk about. But, man, I think it's important that we talk about, you know, and we'll come to the phone lines in a moment. Why has there not been a ceasefire in Ukraine? Here we are. We talked about this for a while. We thought that there would be conversations and that by now there would be a ceasefire.
Yeah, we're almost 2 years.
Where is that conversation?
I don't know. I think that neither side has a clear advantage.
Which is all the more reason to have the ceasefire, right?
Or not. I mean, I think parties want ceasefires when they think they're going to accomplish an objective. It's depressing. And my sense is that Ultimately, it's going to be a diplomatic solution. Diplomatic solutions always come out of ceasefires. I don't think either side's going to have be able to declare a complete victory. I think Ukraine will have to give up some territory. I think that's currently the major sticking point.
But didn't we? Do you think we as a nation, the United States, is doing enough to try to foment the ceasefire?
Well,
I don't think we are.
Well, unfortunately, the way it's happening now, with Congress getting in the way of any further expenditures for Ukraine, gives Russia a good deal of interest in not having a ceasefire, right? A ceasefire comes when both sides believe that they're at something like a stalemate and that they need to talk because otherwise they're just throwing
the wheels,
good money after bad and good people after good people. And so now if Russia can look at this and say, well, the United States is going to pull the plug on this, then we're going to have a serious advantage in the future. So we don't want to have a ceasefire today. We want to wait. And however, if the United States was in a position where they had funding approval, so Ukraine could look across the trenches at Russia and they would both understand we can both go on fighting like this, or we can have a ceasefire, then you are more likely to have a ceasefire. And so, I would guess that to the extent that we would approve the $60 billion of additional aid to Ukraine, it might make it altogether more likely that we wouldn't have to spend it all, because there would then ensue a ceasefire that could settle the problem. People could move on to the reconstruction of Ukraine.
There's a push in Israel by the Hague, supported by
the International Court of Justice,
the International Court
at the Hague,
by of all people, South Africa, who are saying, "Hey, enough already. This is genocide. You've got to stop this." Your thoughts?
Well, they have brought a case in the Hague that South Africa has against Israel for the tenor and the conduct of the war against Hamas and certain of the circumstances that have occurred there. Of course, Israel will counter with arguments about Hamas and the things they have done. It's a little harder to bring a case against terrorists, right? So you've got a state that can be the subject and a defendant in an international court of justice. Not so easy to have it be terrorists. But the Hague is an interesting place, and it does the right things. But we can go back all the way to the situation of Milosevic, the Serbian, who was being brought to trial for genocidal kinds of conduct in the Bosnian-Serbian conflict. And it never got resolved. He died before it could get resolved. It took years and years and years. And so, and once it would get resolved, it's not at all clear who the entity is that carries out the justice, implements the decision.
Let's do this. Let's go to Mike from Kenosha. He wants to talk about Medicare. Go ahead, Mike. Thank you very much for the call.
Yeah. Thank you, Earl. I share in your frustration in your confusion with Medicare and Medicare Advantage. If you remember, at the same time, the W administration pushed hard for the privatization of healthcare. They also signed the Medicare Prescription Drug Act. And I talked to John McCain personally on this issue, and he told me to my face that was the worst piece of legislation that he had ever supported, and he regretted deeply. Even working within that prescription drug plan. Because remember what that whole thing is about the government not being able to negotiate wholesale pricing, if you will, for the drugs that we need.
Interestingly, Mike, what it did is it mandated that everyone get prescription drug insurance. It mandated it so that you can't not have it without being in extreme jeopardy, and that was the way that the medical big pharma could assure themselves that they would get paid.
Well, and again, at a list price, they got the invoice of
Right.
the U.S. government,
Right.
and whatever price that they chose, basically, no negotiations were allowed, which is insane if you think about it. But the point is, we find ourselves in this healthcare system. Not only is confusing and cumbersome, but very expensive. We're at least twice the price of other modern nations across the globe, and when we continue to see the Medicare Advantage being marketed as smoke and mirrors, and who wins is the insurance companies. When we continue to witness and finally start to get a little bit of traction in getting relief in our costs of our prescription drugs, and we again track back to how this happened, it's obvious that Congress and pharma is wagging the dog. And who's getting the short end? You and I. Way too expensive, way too confusing, very frustrating, to the point where I know people who are retired that they put their hands up in the air. They're confused. They don't want to deal with it.
I'm one of them. Hey, Mike, thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Kurt from Wauwatosa. Same thing, Medicare.
So, Earl, I have a help information for you. There's a YouTube channel, and the title is Medicare School. And if you take the time to go to that YouTube channel and listen to the owner of the company, you will understand the difference between Medicare, Medicare Supplement, and what they call Medicare Advantage. It's the best YouTube channel available right now. And not only you, but any listener in the audience, if they go to that YouTube channel and they listen to the speaker, they will understand the difference between the supplement programs and what are called Medicare Advantage.
Well, thank you. You clearly sound like a younger guy. And so the information is certainly needed. And where were you at in January when we were changing over? But it's not too late, man. Thank you very much for the call. Let's go to Jean from McClare. Good morning to you, Jean. You say what?
I just want to bring up something. As long as you're talking about medical care and Medicaid, in our area, we, within the last week, were told of a shutdown, and it's happening, got letters on it, that our HSHS hospital in Chippewa Falls, St. Joseph's, that is closing down by probably in March sometime. And then a big hospital in Eau Claire is closing. In addition to that, this Prevea wonderful healthcare system is also closing. And then a place that works with AODA issues, the L.A. Phillips Treatment Center, Liberia in Chippewa Falls is closing. Chippewa Falls will not have a hospital, and none of the facilities or who runs the facilities let any of our government people know anything that this was going to happen. The doctors will be out. The patients won't have a place to go, and it's like a medical disaster waiting to happen.
So Gene, Tom from LA talked about this earlier this week, and I think late last week, and he said that these things were happening, and he pointed to the fact that our state refused to take the Medicare dollars, Sandy.
Yeah, it was Medicaid
dollars.
Medicaid
right.
for all. Medicare for all. Yeah, I'm sure that had an impact, and there's no question that the medical care system is broken, and it's broken in so many ways, and it's turned into a pure business as far as hospitals are concerned, and it's not turning out well for patients, and broad scale patient care is suffering in locales just like she's identified.
So all over the state, especially rural areas, this is what's happening. And when you turn down federal dollars like our state has for far too long, Sandy, other states pick it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cutting off your nose to spite your face kind of a political action. Not building that railroad will forever look like a stupid decision.
Yeah.
And
the high-speed railroad.
The high-speed railroad from Chicago ultimately to Minneapolis, but certainly to Madison, Milwaukee to Madison, would have been a huge infrastructure benefit. And turning down the Medicare for All money that was going to be provided by the federal government as an option to supplement was just a crazy thing to do. And it was only done by certain Republican governors in certain states.
It is absolutely, you think about those things now. People complained at the time that those decisions were made by then Governor Scott Walker, and they said there were going to be the wrong decisions. There was great fanfare from the Republicans because they controlled everything at that time, that they were doing the right thing. And I never will forget the dollars for the high-speed railroad. They took the money, California, Florida, everywhere else. They took the money.
Yeah.
And Scott Walker got accolades and pats on the back because he was able to stop this.
He was running for president, as we recall, at that point. So the people he got accolades from were really those who were sort of nationally conservative, saying, look at this guy, look what he stood up for conservatism. He didn't stand up for Wisconsin.
Right.
Okay.
Well said. 844-967-2789. Got to take a short hiatus. Don't touch that dial. Sandy Williams on the Earl Ingram Show.
I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. And when I touch you, I feel happy inside. It's such a feeling that my love I can hide. I can hide. I can hide. Yeah, you got that something. I think you understand. When I feel that something, I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and connected to your local community. Here's Terry Barr with the Civic Media Radio Network.
Our Wisconsin winter feels like the perfect time for casseroles. And Red Maple Restaurant near Walker's Point recently received King of the Hot Dish crown.
They had an amazing kind of Asian-inspired, gravy-covered, meatball-heavy casserole, which was my personal favorite, so I was glad to see it win.
Matt Wild with Milwaukee Record visiting Matinaire on Air, where Greg wants all in on this tasty bake-off.
You got your businesses, and then people can bring their own casserole. So there's almost like two levels of competition.
I like this.
The casserole contest supports the Kinship Food Center. We'll keep you posted on the next one. If music is more your thing, the Rat Pack Tribute Show returns to the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee, Saturday, January 27th. Until next time, I'm Terry Barr.
That's the ball. Holding on is very hard to do. Love's gone, and that's no lie. Holding on is very hard to do. Love's gone.
Hey, Al, I played this one for you.
Fun.
I know you got it. You can find it out your mind. There ain't no sense in crying. It's time for you to leave. Baby, that's the bottom line. Oh, I bet you lie awake nights. Never rest a bit. Wish it all would disappear. Yeah, but still the bottom line is to deal with it. And to yourself at least be fair.
It's a disco aspect. It's got a little bit of disco going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back. It was during that time.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Sandy. You knew about disco?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, a horrible, horrible time.
It really
You-
was.
I know.
Bell-bottom pants.
Hey, that's my era.
Did you have bell bottoms?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Oh,
had
yeah.
bell bottoms. Did I have bell bottoms? Absolutely. Hey, I had platform shoes with
Honest to God.
yeah,
Oh.
with heels 12 inches high.
Not 12 inches. That's
Well, maybe 8.
whoa.
Yeah. Welcome back. Hey, man, it was stylish, man. You know, the
Fly.
Bee Gees
That's-
Friday.
That was fly. We call that fly.
Yeah,
didn't we?
it was fly.
Yeah.
I was fly.
You were fly.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. As always, you can join us at 844. I'm glad I don't have any more pictures of those.
I want to see him.
844. My wife. Somebody's probably got them.
John Travolta.
844. Oh, yeah. Saturday
Earl.
Night Fever.
Yeah.
It was, I was part of Saturday Night Fever. Only it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Let's go to Mark from the site. Mark, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, sorry to call on a second time.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
The Alabama execution. It took the guy 20 minutes
Oh,
to
yeah.
die, apparently.
Oh, yeah,
And
man.
it reminded me of the story of the last execution here in the state of Wisconsin back in 1851. But the guy's name escapes me at the moment. But it took that guy 20 minutes to die when he got hung. And it so horrified our state that we outlawed capital punishment in this state in 1853. I wonder if this is what it's going to take for them to ban capital punishment again, because it's just horrific to think of this guy who apparently thrashed around for 20 minutes on the gurney, suffering that whole time, the time it took him to die. So I mean that.
Well,
sorry
but
to
you
get
know,
down on that.
Mark, there are people who will say, he did an egregious thing. Read about, the person he killed. I'm not saying, that, that killing him brings the person back. I'm not a supporter of the death penalty, but clearly what they did in an experiment is part of what Sandy and I are talking about all the time. And they're just doing all sorts of things without thinking them through in this country anymore.
Well, without thinking through what it is a country like us should stand for. I think we're beginning to turn things on its head in terms of what is the glory of the concept of the United States and the glory of the vision that is the vision for the United States. And I just fear that when people lose that vision and start acting out in ways that are in the name of patriotism, but aren't really part of the vision.
Sandy, it is true. Whether people want to accept it or not, there's a metamorphosis going on in this country, and it's not good, right?
Yeah, our culture it's funny because it's righteousness taking hold in a terrible way. I think that
self-righteousness,
and the thing is that it's being done, and the people who are doing it think they're doing the right thing. That's the nature of righteousness, and unfortunately, I think that it's blind righteousness.
And so we see it. We see, all of us see that our nation is changing, and so we don't expect a nation to and human beings not to evolve, right?
Well, sure. I mean, that's the thing. Our society is going to evolve, and that evolution is inevitable. It's like the freight train; you can't stop it. And however, there are those for whom the change creates a great deal of fearfulness, and it creates a very reactionary approach. And the reactionaryism is not pretty and hasn't been pretty in almost any time in history. When reactionaries take hold, it's all being done for the purpose of righteousness, right? It's trying to hold on to what was, but holding on to what was doesn't work, and the freight train continues to move.
The other aspect of it, Sandy, is, and you said it, multiple times. You constantly have said it. You're in my generation calling the shots on the future. It's just not a good thing.
Right. I mean,
There-
to be reactionary requires that you have a memory of what it was that you want to retrieve. And people who are 20 and 25 and 30 and 35 and 40 don't have that same memory. And they see the future much more clearly. And we see the past much more clearly.
Yeah, and so we've got to abdicate our views on what the future should be because it's not ours, right? The
Right.
future is not ours.
Exactly.
You know, and yet we've got people who are pushing as if the future is still ours. It's not. It can never be. It wasn't our parents. It wasn't our parents' parents, and we're no different. Is it safe to say that?
Well, yeah, and the fact is that when we get older, we think we're wiser, and so we can maybe better see the future, but we don't have the same vested interest in the future that those who are younger have. And it's that vested interest. They're the ones who are going to live it.
Right.
They're the ones who are going to experience it, and they're the ones who will be accountable for the actions that are taken now in the future. And so I think we all ought to just recognize that.
So thank everybody who made the show go as always. Thank you, Sandy. Could not do it without you, Calvin. Certainly couldn't do it without you. I want to thank, again, take some time out before we get out of here. I only got a couple seconds to thank you, the listening audience, for continuing to support Sandy and I on this radio station. Up next, Jane Madnair and Greg Bach in Madnair on Air.